Insurance Business TV was recently in San Diego attending the WSIA Annual Marketplace Conference. Whilst there, we caught up with leading insurance professionals who addressed some of the top challenges the industry is facing today.
Yeah, cyber insurance is pretty unique in the sense that you can actually use it as a way to incentivize companies to adopt better controls. Cyber insurers have access to a lot more information than at least some of the more advanced insurers today than some other more legacy players in the market. We can actually drill down into what's driving these losses, and I think that's most relevant, particularly like in the small business space, right, where you've got a lot of companies that don't have a lot of expertise there. They need all the help they can get. That's where cyber carriers can come in, tell them, hey, if you're using a certain type of technology, for example, that makes you 3 or 4 times more likely to experience a cyber attack. Or if you patch this system much faster than you've been doing it on a regular basis, or adopt this certain types of technology. These are the types of things that when you can tie those actually directly back to claims and losses, you can add a lot more value to those customers to help them prevent those types of attacks in the first place. Which, at the end of the day, cyber, a hard market typically comes along because, rates don't necessarily match up with kind of what the loss landscape looks like there. And I think if for those companies that really lean into this approach where it's not just, insurance, but also security, and really believe that, hey, I view this as a true partnership and I want to work with our cyber carrier to help become a better risk. I think that also adds a lot more predictability in the types of terms that they would expect to see in the market if things do tighten up. I mean, a few years ago when cyber hit the hard market, there were a lot, there were a lot of companies out there that, wouldn't even give you terms if you didn't have certain controls in place. Like a good example would be MFA, where I know there are a number of markets that were just turning people away. At AppBay, we really believe in giving our insureds a roadmap to the things that they can do to unlock better coverage or pricing. And anytime we make an update to underwriting guidelines or release new coverages and underwriting those things, we always like to bring our customers along for the ride in terms of understanding what things do I need to do to get better terms and conditions in the market. And we have a security services team, we have expertise on the underwriting side, and we have expertise on our broker partners to be able to effectively help companies navigate kind of this dynamic market like cyber, and put them in a better position to receive better terms and conditions. Yeah, I think this is an area that's near and dear to my heart. I think the folks that are doing the best jobs today, or that stand out both from the carriers and the brokers, are the ones that are comfortable not only having conversations about coverage, but also having conversations about security. Because again, cyber being the type of risk it is, right? You really need to have a pretty unique understanding of what type of technology products, what types of gaps in your technology stack may drive losses. And that doesn't necessarily mean as a broker that you need to be a technical security expert, but you do need to have the ability to be able to spot certain controls and stuff like that may impact the insurability of your customer, or the types of terms or pricing they may get from the market. And this is where I think carriers and brokers partnering with markets like AppBay, right, where we provide not only insurance but the security services that go alongside of it. We can be that partner with our brokers. They don't necessarily need to be a technical expert, but we can help train them, deliver the right information into the room to make sure that's a lot easier for them to have those conversations. And again, this is particularly relevant for most medium and small businesses where they don't have that expertise in-house. I mean, a lot of companies may just be worried about how are they going to make payroll next month versus, did I patch this piece of software that, I assume doesn't have any vulnerabilities because I just installed it, a few months ago. Again, this is where companies like AppBay we can provide tremendous value to our clients and our insureds in terms of giving them that expertise, advising them on where they have gaps in their stack, and ultimately help them actively manage their security and that risk in the marketplace. Yeah, I mean, there is a certain technical component to it, right? Which, for probably a more junior broker can seem a bit daunting. It is one of those things that, when you're in the market long enough, you kind of start to see what the trends are. And again, that's where we spend a lot of time on broker education, so they understand too, what are we seeing in our loss activity that we can help educate customers on that. I do think there probably is still a gap there. I mean, I know most companies recognize that they have a cyber risk, but they don't know what may make them a good risk from a bad risk. And, occasionally you do need a lot of help to get, to talk about things that are more complicated. Again, it's like if you are, a doctor, or an accountant, you kind of know what your exposure is, right? You could be any of those things, but you could be relying on some type of remote access technology, like a certain VPN product that makes you 5 times more likely to experience an attack. That's something that's not readily apparent to most folks that are running their businesses, and even for our broker partners as well. That's not something that they may have top of mind. And again, that's on us to be able to provide them those tools to help them educate their customers on what the emerging threats are and what make them riskier. Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly biased on, what's the most promising opportunity, but I'm going to have to say cyber, just kind of given, App-Bay's place in the market. We are, cyber is one of those lines of business where if you ask most business owners out there these days, someone in the C-suite, kind of what's the top risk facing our business, cyber is coming up as number 1 or 2 on a regular basis. The reality is no company is really safe from these types of attacks. Probably 10 years ago, we would hear pretty regularly, oh, well, I'm a small business, I don't have much information, like, no bad guys, are going to focus on me as a potential victim. But the reality is the threat landscape out there is only accelerating right now. Attackers are exploiting, businesses of all sizes at much faster speed these days than they have in the past. Some of that's probably attributable, some advances in AI. It's a lot easier to draft emails, than to trick folks into transferring money because there's a lot fewer spelling mistakes. Typically, there used to be a much longer window for when a patch would come or a new vulnerability would emerge to the threat actors actually having a way to exploit that. You're seeing that happen much faster now. At the end of the day, it's companies of all risk. We insure companies from small mom and pop stores on Main Street all the way to companies up to $5 billion in revenue, and we see loss activity all the way up and down the vertical. No company is really safe these days. And again, like the SMBs are the ones where they have they're probably in the toughest spot because you could gift them. They're either priced out, because most enterprise security solutions, aren't marketed towards SMB customers, or they don't have the expertise in-house. You could gift them an enterprise-grade security solution, but that'd be like someone gifting me a helicopter if I don't have a pilot's license and don't know how to fly it. They don't have an operator to be able to manage those things. So that's where a market like App-Bay can come in and help them actively manage their security set, give them those tools that they need to kind of, not only prevent these things from happening, detect them real time, and then have the boots that come on the ground in terms of response and recovery to help you recover in the event that you ultimately do have some type of event. But, cyber again is growing exponentially year over year. As long as companies keep relying on technology and the internet to deliver their services, it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And I think the folks that can really bridge the gap between insurance and security are going to put themselves in the best position to have the most growth in the long term. Yes,
Agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, software is everywhere. Technology is everywhere. It's only accelerating and getting even faster. Ransomware still a big threat out there right now until something happens there. I don't see that changing. The reality is that most cyber attacks aren't sophisticated in nature, right? Folks think of the guy in the dark hoodie or some nation state actors that are going in and, doing a bunch of James Bond type of stuff to break into systems, right? The reality is most cyber attacks are fairly simple. It's the threat actors scanning the internet all day, looking for companies with vulnerabilities, kind of looking for that low-hanging fruit. And as companies continue to expand and use more technology, and as that technology ages and new technologies, are also introduced to the market, that risk is never going to go away. Because again, most of these attacks are pretty easy. Financial fraud, for example, just kind of sending a spoofed email to someone and saying, hey, we changed our bank account, send some money over here. As long as those things still remain easy for threat actors to make money, the market's going to be here, and I think that's only going to continue to grow.